So my name is RJ Hanks, and I'm the Tourism and Learning Programs Administrator for the Office of Governor. What that means is that I have the honor and the privilege to be a leader in what I consider to be the greatest economic development enterprise in the world. Texas is routinely recognized as the best place to do business, and the Office of the Governor works tirelessly to maintain our standing atop that perch. We know that access to capital is critical to small business creation, growth, and flourishing. And we recognize that for many, that can be a challenge under normal circumstances. So we administer a program called the Texas Small Business Credit Initiative, which leverages significant financial allocations from the U.S. Department of Treasury to provide incentives to financial institutions to help them expand lending opportunities to eligible small businesses. But as I noted, access to capital can be challenging during normal circumstances, and we all know too well that the aftermaths of declared disasters are not normal circumstances. So in their wisdom, our Texas legislature tasked us to administer another program to help participating community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, to support eligible Texas micro businesses affected by declared disasters. Although our programs are not directly offered to the small and micro businesses themselves, we do highly encourage you to visit our lead financial analyst in the back, Shannon Benavidez, to learn more about our programs and receive an informative flyer with eligibility criteria and lists of all of our participating financial institutions, so you can contact them. Well, without further ado, we are so honored that 3 of our participating lenders have generously donated their time to come to Kerrville on short notice and participate in this very important panel and discuss lending opportunities with you all. So to begin, would each of you please briefly introduce yourselves, your roles, and explain a little bit about the organizations that you represent and the types of lending you specialize in.
Peace be with you. I'm Gustavo Alzada, President and CEO of People Fund. People Fund is a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, certified by the U.S. Treasury, and we are also an SBA lender. We partner with banks, we partner with community development organizations, we partner with the Office of the Governor in the Texas SPCI program, the MBDR program, to offer small businesses loan capital and some grants, and loan capital at concessionary rates.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Eric Dowling. I'm the CEO of Capital Plus. We are based in Dallas, but we do work all over the state. The business start. We're also a CDFI and B Corporation. We started in 1992, primarily focused on affordable housing and mortgage financing, and we've done some small business lending from the state as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adriano Gonzalez, and a lot of you in here know me as Adrian, because you can't pronounce Adriano. I'm fine with that. But Live Fund is also a CDFI. We've been in existence since 1994. We're headquartered in San Antonio. We are licensed to do business across all 50 states. We are a small business lender. We also participate in various SBA programs from microloans to 7A loans to 504 loans. And we have gotten involved in disaster response for small businesses since Katrina.
All right, thank you guys. I know that many in the audience may do not, or at least less familiar with what CDFIs are and how they differ from traditional banks or credit unions. So if you guys can each in your own words sort of share what you see the niche of a CDFI is and how that differs from traditional lending institutions.
I'll go ahead and start with that. Our mission is to help small businesses that are not able to access capital through the normal channels. Startups, some industries, banks don't like them, banks don't like startups. Businesses that maybe struggle a little bit and not bankable for a certain period of time. That's our niche, to help those businesses access capital. The ultimate goal that we have is to help these businesses become bankable, so they're not depending on our products, but can walk into a bank at some point. So we offer a lot of technical assistance to small businesses, hand holding, something helping with a business plan, how do you balance a checking account? Yes, we have small business owners who don't know how to balance a checking account. And we have people with dreams and to start a business that not quite sure how to go about it, and we help provide guidance.
So I'm a reformed banker by trade. I got out of the banking business a long time ago. And part of the reason I got out of it is because we're not very nimble and we're not very creative. And CDFIs are, and it really allowed me and our organization to be able to serve that to our customers. Now, I'll just give you a weird banking thing. If you get a mortgage and you have no credit score, you're told to go out and get a charge card to come back in 6 months with no credit score. And I had that kind of default brain. That makes a lot of sense. But wait a second. Our applicants are 40 years old and have never had credit. What does that mean? It means they live within their means. Who better to extend credit to than people like that? And so that's a folksy example of the kind of work that CDFI do because we get to create and box it.
Adding to that, CDFIs are not just about businesses. So there are CDFIs that are focused on counseling. This panel is about business. People fund supports businesses, small businesses and not so small. Our loans go from everywhere from $3,000 to $2 million. We do have 5 or 4 loans even that too. And then we also provide new market tax credits. Those through the U.S. Treasury. Those are to sponsor larger projects in areas that need jobs and revitalization. So, and those type of projects are much larger. To give you a sense, people found this a non-profit. Right? You think non-profits are small. We have been around since 1994. We have recently crossed $1.2 billion invested in Texas economies. 60% of that is private infrastructure. So nonprofits can do a lot of support in areas of need. The challenge that we have is awareness, build awareness. And we ask banks with which we partner very closely to tell new business owners that we are there. Banks are very important partners of the youth and CDFIs. They get credits for working with us. They get CRA credits for working with us. So if you go to your banker, the banker cannot help. Instead of saying no, they can call any of us. And we can partner with them, or we can do what the banks cannot.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue to the next question. So I presume a lot of the small businesses already have banks that they're working with, and potentially in such catastrophic circumstances, they may not no longer have the collateral to qualify for loans and stuff. Can their banks work with you, or how can they go about bridging that gap between the financing need and getting started?
So, as Gustavo noted, we work with banks. We are a non-depository financial institution. We don't have checking accounts, savings accounts, etc. So we don't have that capital to lend out like the banks do. So in working with the banks are our partner, not only referring businesses to us, but they also, a lot of banks provide lines of credit to us, grants and donations to us, other support to all CDFIs, so that we have the capital also to lend out to the small businesses and entities that need it. So, the banks are a key role in helping those help you. The ultimate goal is to be able to help you so that you are bankable. The banking community is extremely aware of the struggles of small businesses. My partner here, I was in banking for 30 plus years, and this has been 14 years in this industry for me. And I will tell you that being a reformed banker, the support we get from the banks is critical to our success and to the success of the businesses that we are helping.
Not a lot to add. I think to your question, how do we work together? I mean, we've done creative things, like provided the credit enhancement to a deal where the bank's kind of struggling to get the deal over the line, and we say, okay, we'll guarantee this percentage of it. Just creative things that rigid financial institutions generally can't do to CDFIs.
One of the other ways that we work, I'm sure, is how will sometimes a bank will be willing to make a loan, and they can't fund the entire amount for small business needs. So there are times when we come in behind the bank as an inferior position on collateral and complete the capital that the small business needs in conjunction with the bank. So we work tandemly many times with our financial institutions.
These are all of that. But the first place that you go is to talk with the bank, and the banker may say no or almost there, right? So ask them to connect with CD funds, right? Well, I would ask you to stop by any of our tables here and take a card of our loan officers and take it with you to the bank, right? And then if the bank needs a payment, right, we are happy to provide. I can think of a couple of deals recently which the bank provided the first $1 million, $2 million, right? We provided the second position to provide the rest of the financing needed for those deals, and that's how we make it happen.
That's great. So I want to point out before I move on to another question, I think it's a tremendous commitment on their behalf for these C-suite officials to show up to this, and I also think it's a tremendous opportunity for businesses in need. I would love to have max participation in programs that I manage, but my programs are tools. They're there to facilitate the expansion of capital access to borrowers across the state. So if our programs are needed and they're actively used, every one of these gentlemen are participants in our programs, all of them. So if our programs can help facilitate that funding, great. They also have other options that they may be able to fund your needs without tapping into us. And they're also, SBA lenders. Our program is complementary to the SBA in that it is less restricted and provides a higher guarantee to the lenders. So through all of these different options, we really want to expand that capital access to you guys. So in such a circumstance, please take advantage of talking to them if you have financial needs. So can you guys describe other services that you have available besides loans?
Yeah, some are just spring up out of, so as we're sitting here, I'm reminded, in 2017, I woke up with half of our loan portfolio underwater in Houston during Harvey. And my immediate reaction was, okay, we're going to defer all payments and we're going to step in. And I was quickly told that that's not really what our borrowers needed. The borrowers needed to understand how to make insurance payments, what FEMA was, how to navigate that. And so we ended up putting people on the phone, holding hands with insurance companies because, all the three of us take for granted that process. But it's hard. You've never borrowed money, first time home buyer. All of this stuff is really intimidating. So I think what sets mission-driven lenders apart is we are willing to, I'm sure you know in my office I ever thought about sitting on a FEMA call for 50 minutes at a time, but it just, that's what happens. And that's kind of, to keep saying nimbleness, but that's just how we all react to things in addition to providing financial products.
One of the nimbleness is important. We're here specifically because of the disaster response that we can provide to small businesses. And this is something that we woke up to one morning in 2009 after Katrina. How are we going to help these small businesses? And we learned that there was a real need to get capital into the hands of small businesses impacted by disasters. I think the statistics show that 40% of businesses that are impacted by a disaster, if they don't get capital very quickly, the chances are for them to survive is next to nothing. So we've come up over the years with products and a disaster response product. This is something, not our main line of business, but we're prepared to do it. So, we quickly mobilized Katrina, Harvey, Ike, Beryl, the Los Angeles wildfires, and now we're here with you, our neighbors. We quickly mobilized to make sure to get capital into the small business hands through grants. And we also come up with a disaster loan program to where we can get low-cost capital into the small business hands so they can work through the different phases of recovering from these disasters. So the nimbleness helps us come up with these products.
I would add, for example, that loans from CFIs and from the SBA may take time, but are sources of funds that you can trust. Right? Speed cannot have price. Many people go online and try to get a loan online, and then they get caught into a high interest rate loan from which it's very difficult to get out. Our own product, we recognize that it's a loan, right? And someone was saying earlier today that, hey, I don't want to, I want to review my business. So on that, we are providing 6 months, no interest, no payment, and no fees actually. And recognizing that there's a need immediate for you to start rebuild the business. If you repay that loan in 6 months, it's 3 months. So that's one of the things we do. There are people that are providing grants. That's good, but you cannot do much with $10,000, right? So when you get down to it, right, that $10,000 can actually be the equity check that you need for $100,000. And now we're just talking about how to rebuild the business. And then, sure, I represent People Fund, but I'm not shy in saying that the best money available is the SBA right now. So I would suggest that everyone go to the SBA, fill the application like they were suggesting, get informed about the programs, right? And if for any reason you don't qualify or need some other assistance, then the Chambers of Commerce, People Fund, and the USDA are providing grants that also complements something. We can also work with you and with your banks to provide additional capital as needed. I don't know if that's.
That's fantastic.
We should plug your programs.
Yeah, I will say that TSPCI is also as good as SBA, just throw it out there.
Yes.
There's a chance. Some might say superior, I don't know. Just kidding. What advice do you guys have for the audience about how to secure funding? What can you share with them?
As difficult as this is to say, I'm going to say, please have patience, okay? The process is the process. We know, especially sitting here in the community for the last 6-7 weeks that I have been in the community, we understand the pain, the losses, not only financial and material, but the loss of loved ones. And you don't want to have to sit and go through another process with us, but there is a process that we've got to go through. We want to help, and we will try to get through the process as quickly as possible. But I forget, someone mentioned a little bit earlier, there's a lot of bad actors out here. And I can tell you, of all the applications we have received for grants, over 300 applications for grants in the last 6 weeks, 14 to 15% of them are fraudulent applications. So if you're getting fed up with us because we're asking you questions from our documentation, we're trying to be good stewards of the money that we have been fortunate enough to be recipients of, to make sure the money's getting into the right hands, and that we can impact as many small businesses as possible.
I mean, I would add that, speak for all of us, I think, none of us are really selfish. If he does something better than we do, he does, and so I think that's the part that you'll see with our kind of lenders is that we are in the business of taking care of people, whether we can do it, SBA can do it, and we can do it. So I think it's tapping into that.
Yeah, we're not shy in referring to our fellow CDFIs when we can't do something.
He said something and it made me feel guilty. Actually, the loan that we are providing is 6 months no interest on payment instead thanks to support from NVIDIA.
You're welcome. Now, can you guys, because frankly, catastrophic events that happen, many people are wiped out across Central Texas. How do you as lenders, and speaking on behalf of other lenders too, just in general, how do you guys look at risk as a capital provider? How do you take into account some of the tremendous losses that people may face, and these might be, in many cases, riskier loans than they would otherwise be in normal circumstances?
We take the opportunity to look at the business, the applicants prior to the flood, what their operations look like. Prior to the flood, were they in a position where they could afford to make the payments again? Credit-wise, cash flow-wise, et cetera. So we will look at it in a little bit, more aggressive way and say, how were they performing prior to this event? And we will base our decisions on that if we can, if it makes sense. Again, to my point of, we're not using our money. This is not my money. This is money that other organizations are entrusting us with. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of their money while we're filling this need. So yes, we will look at it and underwrite it and ask more questions. But being a CDFI, and, we often say this here, we're not constrained by the regulatory environment that the banks are constrained by. We don't have someone looking over our shoulder all the time. We can look outside the box, and we can be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more aggressive sometimes.
I would add that summarizing that, we are not a bank. So we look at things very, very different from a traditional financial institution. We do things that they don't. We also have specific programs. Each of us has specific programs. In our case, we do have specific programs for veterans. On that, veterans receive a flat fee, concession fee, concession interest rate with no fees, and again, loans up to $300,000, $450,000. And then we have special programs that combine the loan with technical assistance or business coaching for those that we have. So there are a lot of ways in which we support the business, not just in the capital, because think about, not always things go as planned. So when that happens, right, our first goal is not to collect. Our first goal is how can we help?
That's wonderful. I'm going to take a risk. Jarvis might be mad at me. I'd like to give you guys an opportunity for some closing remarks if you have any. And then I think because the question and answer session of the last panel was so compressed, I'd like to extend it a little bit just in case there's a lot of questions that these guys can help with. So if you guys have anything to close out with,
As I mentioned a little while ago, I've been here in your community now since July the 7th, in person, and my staff have been here. We have gotten to get to know a lot of you. We've heard the stories. We're here to help you, and we're here for the long term.
With that, I'd like to open up for questions.
Honestly, it's just a statement. we did apply for the LIFT fund and we received the grant. Thank you. It was a great process. Honestly, I have to say, my mom and 8 others survived on a roof, so I'm like chief fundraiser for my mom on top of business stuff, and everyone we have dealt with has been humble and kind and thoughtful and truly feels like everybody is for us, so thank you for that. I did want to say this just because I was confused about it with the LIFT Fund grant. If you receive the LIFT Fund grant, one of the questions they ask you is, or they tell you is, hey, if you take this money, you can't apply for the loan, correct? Okay, and I misunderstood, because that loan kind of comes from the SBA, but it doesn't. I thought we couldn't apply for the other one. And so if you would clarify that for someone who thinks, hey, I took that grant, can I still apply for money?
Yes. So the answer to that question is, again, I'm going to go back to my comment about it's not our money. We are stewards of other people's money. The people who help us out with the funding obviously want to impact as many small businesses as possible. So for LIFT Fund in particular, if you get the grant, you are no longer eligible for our 0% loan. But you are still eligible to come in and apply for a loan at 5%, our 5% disaster loan. Okay, so yes, you can still do that with us. We've actually had some of you, and I don't know if anyone's in here right now, we've had people actually return the grant money to us because they wanted the 0% loan, which we gladly have accommodated them.
While we're looking for people to ask questions, I think it's important to also note that, look, my programs are tools, their offerings are tools, and you guys are customers. If you receive something from one organization and you still have needs, explore others. Go to the back, look at all of our participating lenders, shop around, contact other institutions, see what they have. You guys are in need, and there's no rule that says you have to stick with one thing and one thing only. The Texas Microbusiness Disaster Recovery Loan Program provides 0 interest loans to the lenders so that they have lower risk and more capital to make loans, right? So we're all about expanding access for all of you. So please feel free to shop around, explore. I don't know if you can get 10 grants, but I certainly advocate for you guys getting 10 grants. I want you to fully recover and thrive. I want Kerrville to sit at the top of the economic development of Texas. So please, look around, talk to people, take advantage of the gentlemen that are here, do everything in your power to get whatever you need for help.
RJ makes a great point. We have multiple tools in our shoe bag, all of us do. So the funds I use for the grant program and for our 0% loan program right now, I have other sources of funding that I can, see if I can qualify you for something else. We all do. We all participate in the state's programs and SBA programs, and then we have private funders who come up and say, hey, we want to help you do something over there, and this is our program, for what we want to do, for the impact that we want to have. So we have multiple tools.
Hi, I'm Sherry Shine, and I have my own business, Tea Cottage in Ingram, that was not affected by the flood, other than having to close for a month. My husband's business went downriver. His was run out of our barn. But my question is, if he needs a loan and if I wanted to also expand my business, is that possible? I know for him it would be possible to go get a loan, but what about those of us who are also in the area but not necessarily losing our business or part of our business because of the flood? Can we still apply?
I'll jump in from the state perspective really quickly and then pass on to them. So the reason that I brought flyers in the back for both of our programs, Texas Small Business Credit Initiative and Micro Business Disaster Recovery Program. Is TSBCI offers a loan guarantee program and a capital access program. Both of those, again, receive substantial federal funding allocated to the state as state funds that we use to incentivize lenders to make loans to businesses that might be on the periphery of their normal underwriting. Now, they're certainly eligible to take that funding and use it for loans they would have made otherwise. I don't want them to tell me that, but you know, the real goal is to expand capital access. So we have, I think, about 20 lenders listed on the flyer in the back under the TSBCI program. All of those are actively enrolling loans with us, and they're actively broadening that umbrella to help businesses like you. And there's no requirement that they're impacted by any sort of disaster. You need to be a business that's got 500 or fewer employees, which I bet yours does. So there's very few restrictions on it, and it's sort of like the SBA offerings, but different. It comes from a different federal funding source. So a lot of the things that kind of hang up some businesses when they're trying to get those SBA-backed loans are not issues for our program. So again, I encourage people to explore SBA offerings, explore our offerings, explore things that don't even require our assistance. But there's 20 lenders listed on that paper in the back that I certainly suggest that you start reaching out to and shopping around. And then for the micro, for your husband's business, the Micro Business Disaster Recovery Program is specifically for people who are directly impacted by declared disasters. And I should say, although it's not relevant to this, you may pass on your experience in the future. There's disasters that are locally designated, state designated, or federally designated. All of those disasters, no matter what they are, count for the program. So I encourage you guys to explore the options we have in the back.
No, the answer is yes and yes. For us, without any doubts, your husband's business that was directly impacted, but earlier today was actually it was a non-profit that they have been directly impacted because they cannot be asking for money when people are living in homes, right? So they have been directly being impacted. So who's going to say no to that, right?
Hi, I'm here actually from one of the local churches as a case manager for advocate for people in general who've been affected. I guess I'm a little disillusioned by what I thought this fair was, and I'm hearing a lot about loans, which I appreciate y'all being here and giving what you can about loans, but to be honest, I'm a little disheartened that there's been nothing about how we can get grants and money into the hands of people who are affected hundreds of thousands of dollars. And just hearing that you take away 0% loans if you take the lift $10,000, when these businesses have lost hundreds of $1,000s. So they would have to give you back the $10,000 to get a 0% loan is very heartbreaking. I'm trying to figure out from a case management side how I help a small business coming through our program in a way that doesn't put them in debt for 30 years. So if somebody can answer that question, I think that's what everybody in this room really cares about. Thank you.
That is a question and comment that we get a lot, and there is no good answer to that question. The three of us up here again, it's not we depend on partnerships with philanthropists, other organizations, even the financial institutions that we partner with. We depend on them to help us provide the funding so that we can be the intermediary, the conduit to get this money out to you. And sometimes, while we understand the need and no, I don't want more debt right now because I can't afford it, it just doesn't make sense. But sometimes our partners say, you know, we want to make sure you're using this money correctly. We want to make sure you're helping small businesses. But they also want to see that that money gets returned in some way, shape, or form. And no, it's not it's not what you wanted to hear. I don't have a good answer for that. We try to get money, the small grants, into your hands as quickly as possible. And we try to get low-cost capital into your hands. The rates that we're offering on our disaster loans, yes, it's a payment, and it may be a 5 to 20-year commitment. But I believe all of us here are willing to offer below market rate loans, 0%, 7%, 5%. It's still a loan, it's less due repay, but we're making concessions to bring down the cost to the small businesses as much as possible.
I would add that we have here in this conference the Chamber of Commerce that are providing grants, and you can apply there, you can apply with the USDA. People Fund has a different program that has a grant associated with it, which is 10%, but that's sure. That's in addition to the loan. But again, our, as Adrian was describing, our core business is about providing concessionary terms, right? Loan capital, and very flexible when other organizations, financial institutions cannot. But again, I would highlight the availability of grants from the chambers and the USDA. And of course, the very flexible capital that the SBA is providing for disaster. And then we come behind that, right, to partner with banks and do what other institutions cannot.
And I'll just say from my own perspective, as an administrator of the Office of Government, we have the tools that are granted to us by the Texas legislature. And we do everything in our power to make those available, to make ourselves rapidly responsive. But we are only granted what we have. So I certainly, in a representative democracy, I certainly encourage everyone to, reach out to their legislator, try to discuss some of these extremely valid and necessary concerns that you have. And through that sort of bottom-up social change, there's a potential that a bill could be passed that then gets allocated to the state, and next time I come up here, I might be able to have something like that. But under the current circumstances, I can advertise the offerings that we have, but I certainly do appreciate your viewpoint wholeheartedly on a personal level. So.
And let me add one more thing. We as an industry, the CDFIs, we are always advocating and talking to policymakers, lobbyists, however we can, or wherever we can, to find creative programs or suggest creative programs to where we can come up with some type of maybe forgivable debt program or something. We're always out there, we as an industry, we're always out there advocating to how can we help small businesses, especially small businesses in need.
Adrian, I'm going to hop in there real quick with the broken mic, apparently. Just turn it on. Oh, just turn it on. Oh.
Turn it off and
Maybe I'm the one who's broken. So thank you so much for asking that question. It's obvious that many people here have that same exact concern. I think in the last panel we mentioned how, or someone made the comment how no one wants to incur debt when the future is so uncertain. I mean, just doing that right now in this period seems like, why? I'm going backwards before I go forward. So I'm absolutely thrilled to hear this concern from everyone. I have my boss here. And while we can't make the promises that a grant program will be created, I can make the promise, I'll take this concern back to the Office of the Governor. So thank you so much. She heard this, and we're gonna have some discussions. But as RJ just mentioned, we are kind of confined with state government and the laws that exist. But as a small business advocate, I assure you, I will advocate on your behalf. Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? I just want to say that probably a lot of people here, like us, have heard that there's just hundreds and millions of dollars that are coming for our health. And it's hard for a little bitty business like us to incur the debt, to think that the next 20, 30 years that we should be having a little bit of an easier time, that we can't. And I know you guys, the Texas community, the world is wanting to help. And I want to just take this moment to say thank you to people who are really giving help. Not that you guys aren't, but the churches, the people who have given are really helping little bitty people like us. They have made such a difference in that outreach and generosity has really made a difference. And I hope that the funds that you guys are being given can find a way also to help us, because we really do need it.